pod bay doors, please, Hal.
Hey, what's going on?
Some joker wants to race.
Don't race. That's ridiculous.
All right, come on. Let's go. Let's go.
Put your window down! You want something?
He's probably drunk.
You're going the wrong way! What? You're going the wrong way! He says we're going the wrong way!
Oh, he's drunk. How would he know where we're going?
Yeah, how would he know? Thank you. Thanks a lot. Terrific.
Thank you. What a moron.
You're going in the wrong direction! You're going to kill somebody! You're going the wrong way!
What?
The pod bay doors are open. Thank you very much for joining us once again. I'm your host, Doug Heller, film critic and film historian for TalkMovieToMe.com. Here as always, seated with me, various modes of transportation away from me, co-host Jerry Dean Roberts, film critic for ArmchairCinema.com, ArmchairOscars.com, and OverThinkingOscars.wordpress.com. Jerry, what's going on?
Well, the last thing I want to be remembered for is an annoying blabbermouth. But if you've heard this show...
Are you offering meta commentary, Jerry? No.
Might.
We're talking about planes, trains, and automobiles. John Hughes, in my opinion, greatest film and only masterpiece, closely followed by Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But they're the only two.
Yeah, you know why? Because most of the cast of that movie's in this.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Those are really the only two John Hughes movies that I really like that he directed.
Tip of the hat to Home Alone.
He didn't direct it.
Well, he didn't direct it, but
he wrote
it's in his universe.
Oh, it's very in his universe.
So much so that I'm actually convinced that the house that Neil lives in it looks so much like the house in Home Alone. I'm not sure it's not the same one.
Well, they were only done a year apart.
Yeah, well, 3 years.
Oh yeah.
So let me ask you, what is your history with this film?
Actually, brief. I didn't see this movie until, I want to say, probably my early to mid-20s.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I saw it before that. And I always thought it was cute, and I thought it was amusing, but I'd never really kind of thought of it as anything more than just kind of a dumb little movie. And a few years ago, it started coming back and being rated as this great movie, and Groundhog Day did the same thing. And I went back and reevaluated it, looked at it again a couple of times, and I'm like, oh, this really is quite magnificent, isn't it? And, same thing with Groundhog Day. I would not have pegged that for a great film, and then you go back. I'm working on a possible great movie pitch for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, honestly, which is the dumbest thing I've ever said, but Um, it might be there. I don't know. What about you?
Um, I saw this in the theater.
Ah.
I was 16 years old. Um, and let me tell you something. To a teenager in the 80s, this is catnip. Okay? Because you have John Candy and Steve Martin in a road comedy, and it's directed by John Hughes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's catnip to a kid in the 80s.
That's a Gen X wet dream.
Yeah, that's just something you can't avoid. The thing is, I can't really. I know that I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
My experience was matched by something that Roger Ebert said, because he put this, and I was actually surprised, and I really didn't see this as for what it was until he put it in his great movie column.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote this. See, he said, "Some movies are obviously great. Others gradually thrust their greatness upon us. When Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was released in 1987, I enjoyed it immensely. I gave it a favorable review and moved on.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie continued to live in my memory. I'm the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw it, I enjoyed it, I laughed,
Mm-hmm.
but when it was over, I wasn't thinking too much about it, but it stayed in the back of my mind."
Exactly. Yeah. Every time I thought of it, I would think of the highway scene.
Yeah.
The going the wrong way on the
Yeah.
on the interstate.
That is the funniest scene in the movie.
You're going the wrong way. How would he know?
How would he know where
How
we're
would
going?
he
He's
know where we're
drunk.
going? He's drunk. Yeah, thank you.
Well, the scene that I kept thinking of is the scene where Steve Martin is asleep in the passenger seat and John Candy's listening to the mess around.
Oh yeah. Oh.
And just having the time of his life. You know, and just playing the piano on the dashboard and the the saxophone.
Yeah.
I mean that was brilliant.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with this movie, and I've completely lost my train of thought. But again, it stayed with me, and I kept remembering those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept remembering all of that stuff, and I remember going back to it and thinking, this is a really good movie.
Yeah.
I went back to it several years later. This is what, and I'll be honest, in recording this, I had not seen this in a while. It had been a long time since I'd seen this. This is what I call a nowadays movie, which is, it's made at a specific time, particularly since this is a movie that that relies on a lot of technology
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of everyday things.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing where you sit there and you say, well, nowadays you would do this, or
Right.
nowadays the movie wouldn't have that. It's very, very firmly planted in the late 80s.
Right. Like if Seinfeld had cell phones, Seinfeld wouldn't have existed.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
If there was texting and smartphones, Seinfeld would never have happened.
You just put in my brain, I can't imagine Jerry Seinfeld in this movie. I mean, he would be insufferable, you know.
Oh God.
Oh no, we're going the wrong way. You know, I couldn't take it. I couldn't take
Yeah,
it.
I don't know that I would want to see him in a remake of this.
Him and George, I couldn't do it.
Although that would add for a completely different dynamic.
It would make a different dynamic. It'd make a different story. But
Yeah.
again, it's a nowadays movie. It's a movie where you sit there and you're like, okay, this wouldn't be there nowadays. Or this, like, for example, the gay panic scene
Right.
is seriously dated now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, although it's still funny, but it was a thing that was popular then.
Mm-hmm.
The way I see that,
football, sports.
yeah, the Bears is a good, got a good team this year. The thing is, it's not so gratuitous that it doesn't work. It comes out of where they came from,
Mm-hmm.
the kind of background that they come from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so horrendous that you can't bear it, but still a little dated now.
You get the notion that they themselves don't take issue with other people being gay. They just don't want to be perceived as such.
They don't want to be gay themselves. They want to perceived as gay themselves.
Right.
But again, all the technology. If this were 2018, Neil would have gotten home in a day and a half.
Oh yeah.
Cell phones,
Uber.
you know, Uber. Yeah. I mean, they're dealing basically with planes, trains, automobiles, and rental cars.
Mm-hmm.
And they're stuck in that.
There are more options now.
There are way more options.
Yeah.
The world's a lot more convenient now than it was then.
Yeah.
But as I'm watching it last night, I'm like, boy, this is nowadays, you know. This is so firmly stuck in 1987.
And the sheer lack of communication that Steve Martin has with his wife during this whole endeavor.
Yeah. Well, he can't have communication with her.
I know, but he could call her a little more frequently, I think. And
he would be.
He could tell her a little bit. Yeah, he could tell her a little bit.
He would be texting her. Yeah. He would be. Yeah. He would be texting her about every 5 minutes.
Yeah. Can you believe what this guy did? But with a cell phone and him actively complaining to his wife through text the whole time, he never would have grown by the end.
This is a movie about empathy.
Yeah.
Because I think for the first half of the movie, this is not a long movie. It's not a very long movie. It seems like it's a little longer than it actually is.
Yeah, that's true.
I was surprised that brilliant scene where they're having their little fight in the hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised how early that comes in the movie. I thought that was way later. That's almost in the first half hour. But I was very surprised at how fast this movie goes.
It does go really fast. Yeah.
The scenes on the highway, I was like, wow, we're already here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking that too. And it moves at a really good pace while at the same time feeling as though time within their world has slowed down almost to a crawl.
Well, how long are they traveling?
They leave New York on Monday.
2 days before Thanksgiving.
I think it was like Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, maybe Monday evening. So he was going to get home on Tuesday, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up.
Well, he's in New York. He's in New York on Tuesday.
Right.
Because it says 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Right. So he's leaving New York at 6 o'clock in the afternoon Tuesday, and it takes him all of Tuesday night, all of Wednesday night, and part of Thursday to get home, which is still really only about a day and a half to 2 days.
Right.
But it feels like they're on the road for a week.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like It feels like they take the same amount of time that Rain Man takes to get from California to New York. It feels like it's the same amount of time, but it's not. It's like a day and a half to 2 days.
Oh, can you imagine this story in the age of COVID?
Mm.
Wow. Yeah, he'd never get home.
No.
Now, if this were in 2019, he would get home in about a day and a half. Nowadays, there's no telling.
Well, yeah, he could have gotten there really a lot faster because they, as soon as they landed the plane, and where was it? Iowa?
Wichita.
In Kansas.
Are you saying I could be stuck in Wichita? I'm saying you are stuck in Wichita.
No, I'm saying
that sounds
you
like
are
me.
stuck in Wichita. Yeah, he could have. There are huge varieties of ways that he could have gotten back to Chicago from Wichita
Mhm.
faster, maybe.
Mhm. Well, but his plans keep getting frustrated
Mm-hmm.
by all of this stuff going on. Starting, and I gotta bring this up, starting with Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big cameo.
Yeah.
That is a huge cameo. And I'm like, and because the first time I saw it, I thought, okay, well, he's going to keep running into Kevin Bacon, and Kevin Bacon's going to be just kind of frustrated. No, he's in the first scene. He steals his cab, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, that's about like Judi Dench showing up in that Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Hey, was that?
You're waiting for him to come back. You're waiting for him to come back, and it's like, wow, that was an expensive cameo. I can't remember. I think this is either the same year or a year before he did a movie with John Hughes called She's Having a Baby, which was not very good.
I want
but
to say that was '86, but it might not.
it's the only movie I've ever seen with a sex scene set to working on a chain gang. That's the only thing I really remember about it.
I mean, I guess if you want a rhythm, but
Oh, they're making a baby. I mean,
anyway,
moving right along.
yeah.
But
Oh yeah, 1988 was after this.
yeah, a year later.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about this. It's interesting to me that the Steve Martin character, and this is par for the course for a Steve Martin character, he's completely self-involved. He's only interested in what he's really only interested in what he is trying to do.
Right.
And he's only interested in his own. And he's not shy about being a complete jerk about something.
Mm-hmm.
In a situation where if he had been nice about it, probably would have gotten him through a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely.
This is a personality it is completely foreign to me. Just the person who tries to bulldoze with their personality.
I've been
this
on
is
the
a personality
other side of that. I've been on the other side of that and have always felt a kindred to the rental car. Oh, I can never remember her.
Eddie McClurg.
Yeah, Eddie McClurg.
Bless her heart.
Well then you're fucked.
Yeah. Her eyes narrow. I mean, her head goes down. You're expecting her to be offended.
Uh-huh.
And she doesn't. Her eyes narrow. Because she's been through this before.
Mm-hmm. Probably multiple times a day.
But this is a movie about overturning our expectations, because when he walks up to that counter and he starts railing... And by the way, this is the only use of the F word in the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. It's not anywhere else in the film.
But boy, howdy, is it here.
He unleashes it. He uses it as verbs, as nouns, as...
It is so prevalent in this one scene that's what got it its R rating.
Right. Right.
Wow.
But if she's standing there, she's so chipper, and she's talking on the phone to somebody about putting the marshmallows on the ambrosia,
Mm-hmm.
and to gobble, 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 and all of
Mm-hmm.
that, and he's just standing there with this death to you look to her. And you're expecting her to get offended. No, she's not offended. It's just,
She just turns on a dime and just,
do you have your rental agreement? I threw it away! It's like, well, that's your problem. You're
Well, then.
fucked.
You're fucked. And in that beautiful
Because-
Midwestern accent, I
Yes.
can't. When she says "you're fucked," it's possibly one of the funniest things you could ever hear.
Because you're not expecting it.
Yeah, right, because she's this sweet Midwestern woman, and it's I love it.
See, again, here's where I unhook myself from this personality, because if I rent a car and I go out to the parking lot and my car is not there, I'm going to tell somebody.
Mhm.
I don't understand why he went back 3 miles. I don't really get it.
Well, because back then, when you rented a car, you only dealt with the agent at the desk. They drive you all the way out to where they store them, and they take you to a spot, and you get in and you go.
This must have been before Enterprise.
Well, this is the how they used to do it before they started having the check-in kiosks in the garage.
Mhm.
But this was how, and if you missed that shuttle,
Mhm.
you gotta.
But I mean, this must have been before Enterprise.
He should have waited for the next shuttle, is what he should.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He really should have waited for the next shuttle. But he walks back down the highway and across runways
Yeah.
to get back there. See, a little bit of patience, and he probably would have been fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's.
Say, look, I got a problem. I need your help. Here's my rental agreement. My car is gone.
Right,
But,
my car wasn't there when I got there. Can you assign me another one? Or, yeah.
little bit of patience. I know it's a frustrating thing, but
You know what,
still.
though? A little bit better customer service, like having a phone that
Mhm. Yeah.
goes to the
Yeah.
desk out there, so that
Might
you
have
could
helped.
just call and say, "Hey, I just rented this car. My name is Neil
Neil Page.
I just rented this car. It's supposed to be in this spot. I'm looking at the spot right now. There's no car there. Can you send somebody back with a different car, or send the shuttle back so I can get a different key?" And then just wait there, and then just go and do that. Neil is not. Neil is white privilege personified.
He is. And I kept thinking, how far is this parking lot from a payphone?
Right?
I'm sure there's a gas station across the street somewhere.
Yeah.
But white privilege, he's not thinking.
Right.
When you think, when you get mad, you're not thinking. And the funny thing is, all through this movie, as I'm watching this, the way I would be in this situation, and I've kind of been in situations like this. This is when I stop and my common sense starts to kick in. And I think, okay, what's the thing that I need to do next?
Right. Neil does not take that minute.
Right.
He doesn't take that breath.
Right.
It's things have to go like clockwork, precision, and if they don't, it is the single worst thing that could happen. And if
Right.
everything then starts to fall apart after, he has no way to recover from it, because
Right.
when one
He
thing
doesn't have a
goes
survival
wrong,
instinct.
right, everything else starts to go wrong too, because it depended on that one thing going right.
Mhm.
And then he doesn't have any idea how to plan going forward. And he also doesn't, he has in his mind how this should be going,
Yeah.
and it's not doing that, but he never changes his expectation to what it should be. He never changes his expectation to what it is, and therefore is completely at odds with the entire situation.
Well, and it also extends to that moment when he unleashes on John Candy in that hotel room. Is that as that scene was playing out the other night, I kept thinking in the back of my head, did it never occur to you this man is the reason you're not sleeping next to the trash can in the hotel,
Exactly.
you know, in the airport?
Mm-hmm.
Because he offers him a room,
Mm-hmm.
and then Steve Martin looks over at this guy who's an executive like himself, and he's sleeping on the floor next to the garbage can.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want to be like that.
Yeah.
But when he's unleashing on him in that for being so irritating and being so annoying, it's at the same time it's also like you're not thinking this man is the reason you're not doing that. He offered you something.
Right.
He's helping you out.
Right.
He may be a little irritating, but appreciate that this man has done this.
Right, but he, I guess, just assumes that somebody should come in and look after him.
Right. That
Or-
things should go the way he wants them to.
Right, like that he can conform any situation to him.
Right.
He doesn't understand that the world does not turn on him.
Mhm.
That he's really inconsequential, specifically because he's an advertising man. He's
Yeah.
literally just
Everything is lined up. Everything is
Yeah.
a specific way.
which
I've
cannot
risen
be an enjoyable life.
I have risen above people like Del Griffith. I don't have to deal with him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to deal with people like him, and I shouldn't have to deal with people like him.
They're plebes, and I make too
That's-
much money for that.
Right. Right. But he doesn't have the instinct to make the best of a bad situation.
Right. I always kind of felt like Neil Page was Steve Martin channeling Chevy Chase.
A little bit. A little bit. I don't think Chevy Chase could do this role. I don't think he could do this
no,
role.
because it's him. He wouldn't be acting. I don't think he would want to put himself on display that much. Of course.
He's not angry enough for this role.
Well, that's true. He's just an asshole.
Yeah. Steve Martin is perfect because he can play this anger.
Mm-hmm.
We need to talk now about John Candy.
I was just gonna say, because I envision Del Griffith to be who John Candy really was.
And Steve Martin said, they asked him some years later what was it like, because they worked for I think a month or month and a half on this film,
Mm-hmm.
and he said he was uniquely himself. What you saw was what you got.
Mm-hmm.
And he said but you always sensed there was something broken inside.
Mm-hmm.
And that's perfect for this character.
That's Del Griffith. That's
because now John Candy didn't always make the best movies. I mean, but he always came in with the biggest heart, and he always came in. And I say this is the same thing everybody always says. He left us way too soon.
He did, because yes, he died doing a movie called Wagons East, and he did Who is Harry Crumb, and there wasn't.
Great outdoors.
Yeah, I mean there wasn't a lot. Nobody really knew what to do with him, except
But he threw himself into his roles.
every time. I love Uncle Buck because of him.
Hmm.
But I
Uncle
can,
Buck is problematic, but
I
he's
can,
great in
yeah,
it.
I can only watch bits and pieces of it before I get
Mhm.
kind of tired.
Aggravated.
Yes, aggravated with it. But I love his performance in it. Um, this, I think, is the greatest expression of John Candy on film, is Del
It is.
Griffith's.
It is.
He's just, you know, when I watch this, there's a part of me that waits for him to reveal that he's been doing this maliciously for some reason.
I never thought that.
Well, I'm a
Because my mind is on a
really,
different track with this
I'm
character,
a
I
really
think.
cynical person that doesn't really trust very easily, so I automatically assume somebody's out to do somebody harm if they're this
Mhm.
incompetent. But
Yeah.
he's just, he's well-meaning and not especially talented. He's just charming.
He's a lonely guy. He's a lonely man.
And he's sweet. He just goes overboard.
Well, he's sweet in the fact, but also, and I note this from people who live alone for a long time. They lose touch with what is acceptable to other people.
Hmm.
They lose touch. They sort of lose touch with how to live and how to be around other people.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I wanted to note, now there is a sort of a very light mystery all through this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't pick it up until you go back through it again.
Yeah.
Is the fact that you keep wondering about him because do you notice he says to Neil at the beginning of the movie, like your job, love your wife.
Mm-hmm.
But when Neil goes to call his wife, Del goes to call a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't. He's more in the work than he is with the wife. It's like, so that starts your brain wondering. It's like, okay, what's going on there?
Right. Did he?
And
Yeah.
also, all the stickers on his trunk are for hotels.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of lands at the end. And also, when he gets in the hotel room, he does the first thing that any widower would do. He takes out a picture of his wife and puts it on the bedside table. That's what a widower would do. That's. I remember seeing this, I think, the second or third time, and I thought, okay, now I get it.
Well,
Because,
I always noticed he does a subtle drop in his facial expression whenever she's brought up
Mhm.
by Neil.
yeah, his eyes drop.
Regardless, he always
Mhm.
pauses for a second and his eyes drop. So I kind of picked up, you know, when he was talking to her while he was in the car, the first time I was watching it, and he's like, well, I wish you were here right now, but I guess that's not going to happen. I'm like, yeah, but you could probably call her, so she's probably dead.
Mhm.
It's just,
Well, I figured it out before that.
I think
But
I
when
did
it comes
too,
down
but-
to the end, the thing I wanted to bring up is that it comes down to the end, and he tells him that she's been dead for 8 years.
Mhm.
And also, apparently, he's homeless.
Well, he just stays
He says,
on the road. He doesn't
right,
own a home. He
right.
doesn't
He's a
rent
traveling.
an
And
apartment. He just has everything he has and just tramps from place to place selling his shower curtain rings.
which explains the trunk.
Yeah.
But it's just that's really interesting. It's like they create this complete character mostly out of words and out of observations.
Oh, like when they're in the restaurant and he says, "I haven't been home in years." Oh,
Yeah,
that's just
yeah,
it's an expression. It's like not the way you said it.
right.
Like,
I thought he was kind of like, when I was watching it this time, I thought of George Clooney in Up in the Air
mm-hmm.
when he's traveling around. He has an apartment that he sees once a year.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe that was the situation. No, he says, he doesn't have a home.
Right.
And I thought that's really interesting. It's like, how do you get away from all of that pain? How do you get away from all of that that mourning? How do you get away from that?
He's
And
literally
it is
untethered himself.
to keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
Keep moving and keep doing what you're doing. And apparently, he's very, 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 very good at his job.
Yeah.
He's selling shower curtain rings as earrings. I mean,
He sells those shower curtain rings for that pocket cash as all sorts
mm-hmm.
of different things, and the people buy it.
Yeah.
Because he's just so nice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And he's so charming.
yeah.
But it's interesting that in this, what is essentially a goofy comedy, they create these complete characters
Mm-hmm.
just out of these words and observations.
Well, there is a nuance in this that is lacking from pretty much every other John Hughes picture. It's schmaltzy to beat the band, just like every other one of his movies. But there's a genuineness to the characters that raises this up above like 16 Candles or Pretty in Pink or...
Well, all of his movies, I'm not going to say schmaltzy, I'm going to say, even when it doesn't work, all of his movies at least had a heartbeat. They weren't so cold that you were outside of the experience. Even, a movie like Home Alone tries to have a heartbeat.
Right. And it's...
it's got the old man, they got the old man across the street who hasn't talked to his son in years. Things like that. Ferris Bueller, this kid who is completely disconnected from his father, who's more interested in his fancy sports car than he is in his own son.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of element. It takes someone thinking about the character to put that in there, just to give it a dimension of something.
Mm-hmm.
Something more than it needs, and it's definitely present here.
Oh, very much
in
so.
both of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
What I love is, and where the movie lands for me, is the scene where Steve Martin is on the subway and he's going home.
When he's
putting
everything together.
He starts thinking about his wife, and he starts thinking about his kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's intercut with scenes of what's been going on the last few days, and he starts laughing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he really starts to feel something, and it's that breaking down of that.
Yeah.
I'm so important.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very Capra-esque. I think
it is, which is kind of where the schmaltz comes from, because Capra could balance his darkness with his sentimentality.
He does a lot better than John Hughes did.
Yeah, John Hughes has always had great difficulty walking that line and making things. This is the only one that he almost doesn't make too, in my opinion, schmaltzy. but even still, there's a level of sentimentality that's really, really, really high in all of his movies.
I'm going to say Ferris Bueller's probably close.
Yeah.
Um, Ferris Bueller's very close because the whole premise of that movie is this guy wants to get out of the house and give his buddy a day out because he desperately needs it.
Right.
That's a sentimentality that is dealt with just enough that the movie doesn't have to sugarcoat it.
I agree.
Here, this movie does sugarcoat it a little bit, but to a great effect.
Right. Right. It's not the it's not the foam finger beating you over the head with all of the points like the Breakfast Club does, or like, be sad for these rich teenagers. Be sad for them. Sorry, I don't like that movie.
I did because it was a callback to, or it was an alarm bell to what we were going through at the time.
See, you
with a lot of movies.
I think that's
a lot of high school movies. A lot of high school movies that were vapid and the characters were just empty. All they wanted to do was get drunk or get laid, and it was just, or both. And this movie kind of brought that genre to a complete halt because the characters we could identify with. You know, a kid who is so married to his grade point average that he would rather kill himself than have an F. You know, a guy who is so pushed by his father to be the best at sports that he wishes he would have a career-ending injury just so his father would leave him alone. A girl who is so spaced away from everybody else that she has to lie about who she is. That's character stuff. That's what makes that movie work. And in a lot of ways, we could relate to those characters. I can't relate to Porky's.
No.
I can't relate to those characters.
No,
but I can relate to the kids in the Breakfast Club. I can relate to the kid. I can relate to a little bit to the kid in Home Alone. I can relate to Ferris Bueller. I can certainly relate to Cameron. Have you heard the theory about Ferris Bueller?
No.
There was an internet theory that was going around about a year ago that if you watch the movie again, Ferris Bueller doesn't actually exist. He is a personification of how Cameron Fry would like to be. So the whole movie is a fantasy in his own mind.
So people Fight Clubbed it?
Sort of. Just it's like Cameron has made up Ferris Bueller as a representation of what he would like, the kind of person he would like to be. But that's an interesting, personality avatar kind of thing. That it's all in Cameron's head. But as I'm watching this movie, and I saw Siskel and Ebert's review of this, and they had a disagreement over one thing. They both liked it, but they had a disagreement over one thing. Is that Gene Siskel thought it was funny, but he said, I wish that it mixed better with the heartfelt stuff. And Roger's like, I think it was an equal balance. I agree with Roger. I think it does have an equal balance.
I do too.
Hysterically funny, but also very heartfelt.
There's so much going on in this movie. The temptation for me was to just sit here and talk about the funny things that happen and just sit here and laugh. But
we're getting there. We're getting there.
But, I think the character, if the characters were less defined, none of the comedy would work, and the pathos would be pathetic.
Yeah.
But Hughes.
I love the creative touches. You have to watch this movie again to get to the creative touches in this movie. I love one of my favorite scenes is when they're sitting in the airport terminal, and Steve Martin recognizes him because he's the guy who stole his cab.
Mm-hmm.
There's a shot from Steve Martin's point of view where he sees John Candy in his parka and his hat with a car door in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still sitting in the airport terminal.
Yeah.
It's like they had to bring the door in and film that reaction shot. It would have been just as easy to flash back to when he stole his cab. But to bring the door in and have him sit there and look is kind of brilliant.
Yeah.
Also, and I bet you didn't notice this. When they're in that small hotel room and they jump out of bed because they realize, they're cuddled up together. Did you notice the picture on the back of the wall? There are handprints on either side of it. I don't know if you noticed that, but there are just big, giant handprints. Somebody's been renting this room for an hour.
Hour after hour after hour.
Yes. Also, did you notice when they, after the car gets burned up and they pull into that little motel and he takes the credit cards out of his wallet and they're just these melted chunks. Did you notice who the desk clerk was?
Yes, but now I can't think of it.
It was the blood-sucking lawyer from Jurassic Park.
Yes, it was.
Martin Gennaro, yes.
Yes.
These aren't credit cards.
And
what would you say to a Casio watch? I'm going to say goodnight.
Yeah. And who else? Just Dylan Baker.
Oh God!
Wasn't he one of the racist guys or something? The hillbillies.
She gave birth to our young'un.
Yeah.
He come out sideways.
Yeah.
She didn't scream or nothing.
Yeah.
Dylan Baker, who never plays a role like this. He's usually the uptight jerk.
Yeah.
If you ever want to see his brilliant performance, he played a pedophile in Happiness, and that is a brilliant performance by him. But he's one of those faces. He's one of those guys you see everywhere.
He's all over the place. He was in most recently Hunters on Amazon.
Yes, that's a good show.
It's a great show.
That's a wild show.
Oh. I mean, Ben Stein has a vocal cameo. Bill Irwin's in it.
Mm-hmm. The Ferris Bueller's dad is in it at the very beginning. He's the guy across the table from Steve Martin.
Mm-hmm. And
on the plane between him and John Candy is the guy from Home Alone, the old man. The earrings, the dangly ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's in that. Eddie McClurg, who played the secretary in Ferris Bueller.
Oh, Matthew
Yeah, she's
Lawrence
in it.
plays Neil as a child.
Mm-hmm. The son in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Susan Kellerman is the waitress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of good people in this. Richard Hurd.
The best scene in the movie, though, and I got to talk about it. That's that scene where they're driving their rental car down the highway. And I forget how it happens because it's a long sequence. I forget how it happens, but he gets his coat stuck on the seat.
Oh, what happens is, so he's smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
And he throws it out the window. Unfortunately,
and it goes in the back.
Cracked enough. Yeah, it goes out and then it comes back in through the window in the back and sticks in the back seat. That's what starts the fire. But it's starting to get warm.
Right.
So he puts his hand back to start taking his coat off, and the cuff gets hooked on the seat adjuster.
Hmm.
And he doesn't know that, so he's pulling up when he should be pushing forward. So
Hmm.
he's pulling back. And
He's driving with one
right,
hand.
so he can't get his hand out. So then he uses his knees and he tries to do his other arm, figuring
He
if he
gets
got
hooked on
that
the other
out,
seat adjuster.
exactly, in the exact same manner. And now his hands are pinned behind him,
Yeah.
and Steve Martin wakes up. Oh, hey, it's getting warm in here. You should take your parka off. I'm trying to.
This scene makes me nervous
Oh,
because
it's
his hands are
horrifying.
pinned.
It's terrible.
His hands are pinned, and he's driving with his knees
Yeah.
on ice,
Mhm.
no less. And just they get turned around. And I don't know how it takes them so long to figure out they're going the wrong way. Because the signs would tell you that you're going the wrong way. Because you're looking at the back of signs.
Right.
And if you look on the other side of the interstate, you can see that the cars are going the same way.
Mhm.
But just that scene, when they see those two trucks coming, and this movie's kind of surreal in a lot of places.
Mhm.
But just that scene, because the funniest thing about this movie is that look on John Candy's face when he sees those trucks coming over.
Yeah.
And they go between the trucks. And they turn into skeletons. That scared the hell out of me the first time I saw this.
Yeah.
It's like a drunk driving ad or something. You know?
It's terrifying. It's
And they get out and they're sitting on they sit down on the trunk to catch their breath, and the car catches fire.
that's when the seat finally goes up.
And they're not reacting to it at all. It's just
Well, because they don't see it at first. They
turn
well,
around
they
and
turn
look at it.
around
It's
and look
like-
at it, and it's like, you know what? At this point, I get it. It's like, we just almost died going the wrong way on an interstate, and with everything else that's happened, this makes total sense for what's next. I get it.
Yeah, the surrealism is here. There's a great moment when something happens and Steve Martin falls in the road, and Dale almost runs over him.
Mm-hmm.
And he pisses off this guy. He says, I'll move my car, but I want you to help him up. And he picks him up by the balls.
Yeah.
You know how glad I am I didn't kill you. You know how glad I'd be if you did.
I thought he was just gonna pull them off, like he's stretching his. Oh.
So what do you think the temperature is? 1.
One.
1. Again, this is very Capra-esque. This is a very Capra-esque road movie. I mean, it's got all this slapstick stuff going on, and then the heartfelt stuff.
Right.
You know. But anyway, it's a very funny movie.
It's hilarious, and it's very touching. It's
and very dated.
oh yes, but really, one of what 3 or 4 Thanksgiving movies that are actually watchable.
Yeah, there aren't many Thanksgiving movies.
Well, I was thinking about that when I was thinking about this movie, and I realized it's because Thanksgiving is an exclusively American holiday.
Yeah.
You can sell a Christmas movie around the world. You can sell a Thanksgiving movie to the U.S.
Yeah.
So they don't want something that's going to be basically unmarketable in every country but this one.
Yeah.
So they just don't make them. Uh,
Well, generally, Christmas movies don't do well at the box office.
mm-hmm.
Um, if you go back and you watch Siskel and Ebert, and it's online, you go back and you watch Siskel and Ebert's original review of Christmas Story. Gene Siskel said, and I quote, "This movie will either be seen by millions or will be seen by no one."
Yeah.
It took a while.
Mm-hmm. It did.
But I was trying to see, because I love to do this occasionally. I'll look up, what they what the internet considers a Thanksgiving movie. Popular Thanksgiving movies. Here's Thanksgiving comedies. Knives Out. Pieces of April.
Pieces of April is a Thanksgiving movie.
It is a Thanksgiving, not a good one.
I liked it.
Grumpy Old Men.
Really?
Son-in-Law.
Oh boy.
Friendsgiving. Tower Heist. Freebirds. Mall Cop.
Did you see Freebirds?
No, I didn't see
God,
Freebirds.
it's awful. It's two turkeys get into a time machine that is voiced by George Takei to go back to the first Thanksgiving. They go back to the first Thanksgiving to try to prevent turkeys from being the dish, the main course at Thanksgiving.
You had me at George Takei.
Owen Wilson is one of the voices. I can't remember. Patrick Warburton, maybe?
Didn't they make a sequel to that?
I believe they did. I did not see the sequel. I saw the first one in the theaters. It is a terrible movie.
If it's not Disney or Pixar, I usually don't even bother because they're usually half-assed.
It's Woody Harrelson and Owen Wilson.
Well, there you go.
With Amy Poehler, Dan Fogler, Cole Meany, Keith David. There's a lot of people in it. It's George Takei.
That's the time machine.
As the computer in the time machine, yes.
What in the world? Who comes up with this list?
I don't know.
It's like, because I'm also looking down the list. Jack and Jill.
Really?
Fantastic Mr. Fox. Beethoven.
Well, I guess
For your consideration.
Fantastic Mr. Fox, maybe because there's a big banquet.
Broadway Danny Rose.
I think some of that takes place on Thanksgiving.
Mary Poppins Returns.
That's English. There's no reason for that. I mean, I know.
Scent of a Woman.
Okay. I international movie.
Anna and her
fans,
sisters.
Well, that takes place at Thanksgiving and over the holidays and everything.
Yeah.
I would always include, personally, Babette's Feast.
That's a great movie.
Oh, it is. But only because of the food element and not because of anything regarding anything else with the
I
holiday.
always tell people when they ask me for Thanksgiving movies, and I get this all the time. People ask me for Thanksgiving movies. I think you need to find a great food movie.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially what Thanksgiving is.
If you watch, like, El Topo or
Big Night.
Big Night or...
Big Night is a great movie. That's a great food movie.
Drink Man Woman, you know...
Oh, God, that's so good. Jiro Dreams of Sushi is a great movie.
Yeah.
Tampopo. Especially if you're... Yeah.
Tampopo.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good. If you're just focused on the family and food element, there's a lot of good movies. But movies that are themed around Thanksgiving, they just don't make them that much.
There's not a lot to tell with Thanksgiving.
Right. It's basically just going home. It's basically just joining your extended family for a meal, and the connotations of not wanting to do that.
Not in 2020.
Well, no. I hope you didn't, because super spreader events.
Let me tell you something. I have both my parents are in their 70s, so they don't go too many places. because they're the most at risk.
Right.
So we didn't get together this Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
I spent the holiday with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
We made our own food.
Mm-hmm.
We watched our own TV. We watched Mandalorian. We watched a couple of movies. Took a nap.
Yeah.
We did our own thing.
Wasn't it nice?
It was nice.
See,
it was wonderful.
Our traditions had to change a long time ago because one of us, either me or my wife, always had to work on Thanksgiving. So we
same here.
Stopped going to my mother's pretty early. My father would be 76 now, and my mother would have turned 70 in September. So they wouldn't have been going anywhere anyway. They live 5 hours away from me, but we had stopped going out to Thanksgiving decade ago or more, over a decade ago. So we've had our own thing. What we do is we make our whole big, the turkey and all the stuff and all of that, and we sit there from the time the NBC parade is over, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade is over, from that moment until we disperse for the evening, we do MSD3K. We do Turkey Day.
Yeah.
Head to toe. We don't watch anything good the whole day. And it's just something that we do together as a family. It's understood. We're watching all MSD3K all day. And it's wonderful.
We watch the parade. Because even if I have to record it, ever since I was a kid, I got to see Santa Claus. I got to see Santa Claus. Just, it's a thing with me. Because that's how I know.
That's the moment that the Christmas season starts for a lot of people.
It is. And I don't know how long this has been going on, but mostly due to what my wife does for a living, we watch the dog show.
Mm-hmm.
Because NBC runs a national dog show afterwards. Right. This year was very interesting because the parade, they did a beautiful job. They really did. Mm-hmm. In the fact that they couldn't have people on the sidewalks. Mm-hmm. They really did a good job, right. as good as they possibly could. Right. They had the floats, they had the commentators, they had everybody out there, and they made the best of a bad situation. Right. I remember, I've got to tell you this. You're going to love this. We watched the one on NBC for a particular reason, because you can actually see the damn parade. Don't watch the one on CBS. One year, I will never forget, we flipped it over to CBS. They were talking to some celebrity about whatever show I was not going to watch. They were promoting some damn show I didn't give a shit about. While they're sitting there talking to this celebrity, and it's tight close-ups, kind of like we are right now. It's kind of tight close-ups. I can see the parade over their shoulder happening. Mm-hmm. I saw a Big Bird, Bullwinkle, Pikachu, and I'm like, guys, stuff, things. And I'm like, well, screw it. I'm going back to NBC so I can actually see the floats. While they're talking to this damn celebrity about whatever. Yeah.
I think that's about all I've got. What do we have coming up?
That's all I've got. Next week, a family fun pack. We're talking, we're doing this annually. Last year we talked about 4 films that were popular films. I think, what did we talk about? Elf and Christmas Vacation. I think we talked about Die Hard, Home Alone. This year, do what?
And Home Alone, yeah.
And Home Alone. This year we have decided to pack the 4-pack with some Christmas classics from the golden age of Hollywood. Two popular films and two you've probably never heard of.
Yeah, 2 films that I've seen and 2 films that I've never heard. As a matter of fact.
We are talking, the first film is, of course, Miracle on 34th Street. Simply because I can't find a way to do an entire episode on that movie. And not have it be 20 minutes long. The second movie is Meet Me in St. Louis with Judy Garland, which is wonderful. I saw that for the first time 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Our third is a great movie called I'll Be Seeing You with Ginger Rogers and Joseph Cotton.
I think I've seen that one, but I'm not 100% sure.
Our last...
Nope.
Our last film is Christmas Holiday. It's a drama starring Deanna Durbin and Gene Kelly. Now, here's the thing. I've got a movie starring Ginger Rogers, and I've got a movie starring Gene Kelly.
Neither one of them are dancing.
And they don't dance.
No.
They don't dance.
Well, when you told me about Christmas Holiday, I looked it up. It's a noir directed by Robert Siodmak. I'm like, I am there, dude. Like, you are talking my language. And after that, the week after that, we go to Japan.
The week after that is a very, very interesting film called Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence.
Yes, we go to Japan during World War II, Japanese POW camp.
No cancer in Finland.
No cancer, no Finland, no Sweden, no murderous Santa Claus.
He has a tendency to pick weird foreign films for Christmas, and I'm like, what the hell, man?
Yes, I do. And this year is no different. This is a weird movie.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence is going to be our Christmas week.
Yeah. Yep.
That's going to be our Christmas week, and then
I know I did that on purpose.
And then following that, what are we doing after that?
Oh.
We are going to discuss a film we have not seen yet.
Yes, it's.
We are talking. Technically, we've seen.
Well, yes, it's the 30th anniversary of The Godfather Part 3, and to commemorate that, Mr. Coppola has re-edited the movie, hopefully into a better movie. Well,
and it's called, and I quote, Mario Puzo's The Godfather, Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. Which is a much better title.
Which is what he wanted to call it initially. He wanted to call it The Death of Michael Corleone, and they wouldn't let him.
Which is stupid.
Well, I thought it was funny. In the commentary, when he's talking about that, he said, when I was making Part 2, all I wanted to call it was The Godfather Part 2. And that wasn't done with sequels. At the time, sequels, you always had to have a subtitle. And he had...
Or a different title.
Right. So he had so much clout at the time that he was able to throw his weight around and get The Godfather Part 2. And he said, the dynamics of Hollywood shift so much that by the time I made 3, I had so little power and clout that I couldn't get them to not call it The Godfather Part 3.
Directors had such little clout.
Well, by 1990, yeah. The 80s...
Because the studios were running everything.
The 80s were a very bad decade for directors.
Unless you were Steven Spielberg. But I can't wait to get to it, because we talked a little bit about Godfather 3. I watched it again the other night, The Godfather, the original version. It's not a bad movie. It's a mess.
Yeah, but it's not a bad movie.
It's too long, which is strange because it's the shortest of the 3. It needed, because they were pushing him to get it into theaters
for Christmas.
At Christmas, and
he could have used another 3 months.
It needed another year
Editing.
On the script, and maybe to get Winona Ryder freed up for the role.
And
of the daughter.
The editing probably should have gone on a little bit longer.
It's not the longest Godfather movie, but it feels like the longest Godfather movie. Honestly, that opera scene at the end is just insufferable.
God, it is interminable. Oh.
But if it hadn't been for The Godfather Part 3, I would be able to say Internationally Immobiliari.
Or
I just love saying that.
Or the greatest thing to come from that movie. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
They pulled me back in. I command this family, right or wrong. Was not what I wanted. Understand? This is when Pacino just started yelling his parts.
Yeah, this was around from about Sea of Love on, but this was where he's just yelling his roles. All in preparation for him yelling his way to an Oscar for Scent of the Woman. Scent of the Woman.
Yes.
Hoo-ah!
Yes.
Anyway.
All right, that's all I
got. So you can listen to us on iTunes and YouTube. Hit the like, subscribe, and activate the notifications there so that you know when things are going on. You can find all of our back episodes at the podbaydorspodcast.wordpress.com. You can find us on Twitter at pod_bay. We will tweet from that when we release a new episode, which is every Monday. You can also find us on Patreon with that same handle at pod_bay. And kick a few coins our way. We would greatly appreciate it. And we thank you very much again for listening, and the Pod Bay doors are now closed.
The mission has been completed.
You can talk about the pit, barbecue, the band was jumping, the people too. Mess around, they're doing the mess around, they're doing the mess around, everybody doing the mess around. Everybody was juice, you can bet your soul. They did the boogie woogie with a study roll. They mess around, they're doing the mess around, they're doing the mess around, everybody doing the mess around. Now, when I say stop, don't you move a peg. When I say go, just shake your leg and do the mess around. I declare, do the mess around. Yeah, do the mess around. Everybody's doing the mess around. Now let me have it there, boy. Got it, boy. Yeah. Oh, mess around. Go mess around. Mess around, boy. Now this band's gonna play from 9 to 1. Everybody here's gonna have some fun doing the mess around. Doing the mess around. They're doing the mess around. Everybody doing the mess around. Now you see that girl with that diamond ring. She knows how to shake that thing, mess around. I declare she can mess around. Mess around.